Welcome to
What's
Control
going
the Cool.
on, everyone? We're back
Hey,
at you with Control the Cool. We're here on a special edition talking to our teachers. We have some wonderful teachers that have joined us today. We have Miss Cherie Pritchett, and we also have Miss Nafisa On Onque. Pardon me.
Yes.
I almost messed up the last name. She ready to kill me. So listen, we have these two teachers on. Ladies, how are you doing today?
Good. Doing great. Thank you.
Good. So listen, today we really just wanted to talk about, everything that we've been doing. We've been seeing a lot of different things that have been happening as far as the pandemic. How are you teachers coping with the transition from not being in a classroom versus to being really at home, teaching from home? So what's your opinion for that? How are you feeling?
Stressed. It's very hard to balance it, especially if you have a child, and some people have multiple. Well, for me, I have a daughter and she's in pre-K, and she even had to go on for virtual learning as well. So just trying to balance out me logging on with my scholars, and then also making sure that I make time for her. At first, it was very challenging because I had to figure out a schedule that worked out for us, because some days she had to go on virtually versus other days she may have to do some assignments on Class Dojo. Or with me, I have to make sure that I'm on and available to my kids all throughout the day. So, and then trying to figure out, making sure that I schedule virtual meetings with my kids that does not clash with her meetings that she has for her school. So it's challenging because nobody expected this, and I think the first few weeks were really, really tough because we never had anything like this before, so we had to really make up stuff as we went along with it. So as it progressed, I feel like it got better, but it was very challenging to adapt to in the beginning, especially because it wasn't something that anybody, no matter how long they've been teaching education, has been used to. So just thinking about, I'm not a first-year teacher, but I have some of my coworkers that are first-year teachers, so I know that to come in as a first-year teacher and then this to happen had to be very stressful. And I guess just making sure that you have some times where you devote to me time, whether it's taking a nap, writing. I've been journaling a lot, making sure I take naps, all those different things like that. So just trying to find a balance, just to make sure that myself mentally is ready to even be there for my kids, because I have some kids whose families were directly impacted by COVID-19. So just trying to make sure that I'm being empathetic and sympathetic to what they're going through, and making sure that I exempt them from assignments, because some parents are really stressed out about making sure that they submit them on time. So it's been a different kinds of emotions, and I think even for parents, some relationships have become strained between me and parents that I didn't have issue with before, because it's not in person where they can understand where I'm coming from. It's mostly either on a phone or if I'm texting something through Class Dojo. So if you interpret it in a certain way, it can come off a different way. So sometimes this virtual learning can make it a negative relationship between you and the parent, because to them it just seems like you're just nagging them to do work, and they're like, just leave me alone. When for you, it's like, I'm just trying to do my job and make sure that I'm supporting you and your scholar as much as I can, in the best way that I know how, given the circumstances. So it's been an experience.
So may I ask, what's your, because I know it's different levels to this teaching situation. What's your teaching expertise, if I will? What do you teach?
Wait, can you say that again? It was breaking up a little bit.
I
teach kindergarten. I'm a kindergarten teacher.
Okay.
So I teach writing, reading, studies. So it's different, all the different content. So.
Okay. Miss Pritchett, what do you feel? What's been your experience as far as the teaching aspect? Because obviously it's seeming like from Miss Anque was saying that it was very difficult, and it can be challenging. And I think you're a special instructor. Is that correct?
Yes.
Clarify exactly what your title is.
Okay, so I am a teacher coach, but I'm a certified special education teacher, and I will have to agree with Nafisa that it's a very stressful time right now. This was something that we didn't plan for, and as educators, we plan well in advance. So to be in school on Friday, and then you get a call that you're not going back, and then you continuously waiting to get that call, okay, I'm going back to school. Like, we were really optimistic that we might just go back to work, and to not ever go back into your classroom has been extremely difficult. So as a special education teacher and as a teacher coach, I was pulled in a lot of different directions. Having to teach teachers how to use Google Classrooms and various platforms that we never used before, or we kind of were a little slow using. We didn't really press those various platforms. So having to teach myself how to use them, then in turn to teach other teachers how to use them, I was like really pulled in various, directions, and being a mother of 3 kids. And so I'm really thankful that my kids are older. So they were like, self-directed. My oldest is 17, and I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. So they were actually able to get on their devices and just, complete their assignments. I mean, I've been on a phone when this first started all day long. Like, my hours didn't end at 2:50, and they definitely didn't begin at 8:10. During the pandemic, like, you were pulled and you had to work outside of your normal hours. You would get calls from parents that needed assistance on how to log in, and colleagues on how to log in. So this was like a very stressful time. I agree that you really have to take a break, like, mentally. I even had to, I'm also like a developmental interventionist therapist. So I work with children between the ages of 0 and 3. And so that job also started taking place online, and it was called telehealth. I actually resigned from another job because I was just pulled in too many directions. Like, I just couldn't be online all day long. Like, I couldn't support my teachers online, support students online, help my own children online, and then provide therapy online. Like, it was a very stressful time for me, and I had to let that job go in order for me to be okay mentally. So I definitely agree with the other teacher. Like, this is very stressful, and it's just now starting to calm down. And you have a strained relationship with colleagues right now. You have a strained relationship with parents because they think that that you're picking on them. You just want the kids to do their work, but we are sympathetic. Like, it's a lot of things that's going on within households, and I'm just thankful that as a parent with 3 kids, like, we were lucky to have 3 devices, and I had my own device. But it was some families that's still just now getting devices, and I know at my school people are still now getting devices, and this started in March. So this was something that was not planned for. And as a special ed teacher, our students are used to a routine, and this completely threw them off. This affected their lives tremendously. Some kids probably went into depression. Some staff members went into depression. So it hasn't been easy, but it has been a learning process for everyone. And I guess, like, now for the future, like, this is something that we will always be able to talk about, but definitely as educators, we would definitely prepare, because you never know if this is going to happen again.
Now, Joe, you're also a teacher too. To some of our watchers and listeners, you know that our own host Joe Woods is actually an educator himself. Joe, what's been the strain that you've been facing? I mean, we're getting it from these from both these scholars that we have here. That it seemed like a tough process. I mean, I can only imagine. You getting cursed out by a teacher, early in the morning. You ain't even had breakfast yet, and they laying into you. So, Joe, what's your experience? Because I think you also teach special education. Is that correct?
Yes, I teach autistic students, which is a task in itself. I have to agree with Cherie that they're used to routine. Okay, you throw them off, and all hell's going to break loose. They're used to catching that access link, coming to school, coming to class, getting ready to work. All right. Now that we've been off, it's been crazy for them. They have to have their, like I said, all of them have to have their own devices, and some of them, are low functioning, and they have trouble working their device. So you have to, make sure that the parents are there, or you have to repeat to them, say, okay, you have to turn on your video, you have to remain on task. Or some of them still have the, they'll start to, how can I put it, throw fits, or something like that, or they start to stem. There it is. They'll start to stem. So you got to calm them down, and it's mainly you have to keep them focused. That is, I believe that's the hardest thing that you have to do. You have to keep them all focused on the project. I'm a graphic design. I teach graphic design, but I had to switch it up to teach art class, because to teach that graphic design online, it would be way too difficult to handle. So I had to actually change my curriculum up and just start teaching drawing classes for them, which they pretty much love, And I'm able to use share the screen, do YouTube videos and things of that nature, which helps me a lot. So basically, I'll just play the video. I'll work along with them during the time when we have session, but I'm also monitoring. In the beginning, I had like 47 students, and I'm monitoring them on Zoom. Some of them are stemming, getting up, walk around. Then you have the parents or their family members in the background screaming, doing whatever, and they're paying attention to what they're doing. You have to tell them to remain on task and things like that. It's very stressful. I wouldn't say it's very stressful. It is stressful. It's like, because you're constantly, you have to look at each student and see what they're doing, and all them members, and you're like, okay, pay attention, remain on task, stop disturbing class. Come on, let's get it together. It's very hard when you're dealing with artistic students, but after a while, once you get more sessions in, they'll start to get into that routine, and it'll start to become a little better. But as of right now, like I said, there's still.
I just wanted to add on that.
Good.
It's breaking up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
There you go.
Okay. I just wanted to add that with all this going on, because virtually, especially for kindergarten, most things, it's not like they're learning new content. It's reviewing things that we've already been teaching them. And my concern, and I'm pretty sure most teachers' concern, is that educational gap is only going to widen. They have that summer slide, but it's like now they have 3 months of being home and additional 2 months of summer. So that's 5 months of not being in school. And then with virtual learning, you'll see that you have some scholars that were not passing most of their classes when they were physically in school, but now that they're home and they're with their parents or older sibling, they're passing everything. And then that becomes a problem too. So I think for me, my biggest concern is being.
It's breaking up.
You're breaking up.
You're breaking up. All right, so just as a sidebar, that's Slim's daughter.
Oh, okay. Listen,
I had to throw that shot.
Okay.
I had to. Now, Peace, I'm sorry, because we always getting on your pops. We always getting on them. Oh, did she get banged off?
Let me
gotta get her back.
They share Wi-Fi.
Call her, tell her to come back.
They share Wi-Fi.
She'll make her way in. But I'm gonna chime in while she's getting herself back together, basically, and say, first of all, I didn't know Joe did what he does, and I want to commend you for doing the job that you do. And I know it is a stressful situation, and for you to do that, that's you're teaching me something new. I never knew that. But I wanted to ask the teachers, do you feel like you being basically getting your point across or making a difference at this time with all of the distractions between the shut-in and now these new violent racial things that's going on? Do you feel like it's harder to actually mentally teach these children with all the emotion that you have right now?
I definitely feel like you have to do a lot of social emotional learning, SEL learning, because like you're saying, like, you know, teachers need, you know, support and family needs support. And honestly, right now, it's not about the academics. It's about checking in and making sure that children are feeling safe, that families are safe. So it's really not about the academics. You just really checking in on your students, socially, emotional. You want to make sure that they are good, that their families are good. So I feel like with everything that's going on, sometimes kids just want to talk. They're not even concerned about the lesson. I have students that they would go from various WebEx classes just so they could interact with an adult, because things might not be good at home. They might not, you know, a lot of times when kids came to school, they got that positive reinforcement. They got that love, that unconditional love at school. And so I found that students just wanted to talk to you, wanted to hang out with you. They tracked you down on Facebook or any type of media they could find you on. So I feel like with everything that's going on, social emotional learning trumps everything right now. Like, it doesn't matter if they are completing their academics. You want them to, but just making sure that they are doing good socially and emotionally is the best thing as an educator, as a person, that you can be doing. So sometimes you have to drop, you know, all that other stuff, all the academics and things, and then just check in with that person, just check in with the student, check in with your colleague. Like, I just want to call you to see how your day is going. Like, girl, take a break. Like, I'm so big on taking breaks and telling other people, turn off your computer, turn off your phone. And that's one of the things that my principal would do. Like, she would put out a memo, like, please don't contact Miss Pritchard after 12 o'clock today, because she knew, like, the pressure that we were on and under. And so my principal made sure that we had that time to recuperate as well as an educator, and not to put so much pressure on the students, like calling them, completing assignments. Like, you know, you want to nudge them and, you know, encourage them. But at some point I would tell parents, like my other teachers, like, if they're not logging in, you know, you just document and you just check in to see that they're still okay. Because it's a lot of things that was going on. I mean, it's bigger than us. It's bigger than logging in. Some students have lost their parents. Some students have gotten kicked out of homes. Like, it's so much bigger than completing, you know, the academics right now. So you really do have to check in as an educator to make sure that, so like, emotionally your students are good. So
I agree 100% with you, but it's so hard. And I think for me, when administration is requiring you to fill out all these forms and all these Google forms, and saying you have to make sure you're reaching out to parents, you got to do a communication log, and you're put in this spot where you're like, I want to make sure that my scholars, the parents, are okay. And I frequently ask them, and they thank me all the time, like, hey, how are you doing? I hope your family is well. And we have conversations that are even about everything that's going on in social media right now. I think it's important, like you said, to do that. And then it's also hard because it's like when the administration is saying this is what you have to do, and you have to make sure that you reach out to these parents and make sure that everyone's doing their assignments, you're put in this weird spot where you want to make sure that you're exempting them. And I do. If I feel like I don't ask administration that. If I feel like this parent is expressing to me that their child is having a hard time, I will give them an extension, or I would say, listen, don't even worry about the assignments this week. Focus on getting yourself together, you and your family, making sure that you're okay. And then we'll talk about this a lot of times, because a lot of the parents, they really care. They care about, you know, being involved and making sure that their kids are doing everything they need to do. But like I said, when administration requires you to put the pressure on the kids, it kind of just puts you in this weird spot where you're like seen or viewed as a bad guy, when it's like, if I don't do this, I'm not doing my job. But then if I do put pressure on them, then it seems like I'm not being sympathetic of what's going on. So I always try to add my own little mix or spin to it. And I say, hey, I know that you didn't log on today. Like, is everything all right? It's not anything punitive, or like, they're going to get this if this doesn't happen. It's just like, did you have any trouble with logging on today? Like, let me know what I can do to make this process as easy for you as possible. Now, there's some parents that been thanking me this whole time are like, you know what, I appreciate your patience and how you've been handling this the whole time. But then I have some parents that are like really combative and just view me as the bad guy. But the important thing that I think is really big is communication between the parents and the teacher. If you're not communicating with me, I don't know what's going on at home. I don't know what you need help with or what I can do to make this better. If you're just not logging on and not responding to anything I say, I can't go off of assumptions. Like you have to communicate with me. I do think that throughout this, communication is very important. That has to continue to happen. No matter what form it is, a text, an email, a phone call, whatever, just so I can know, like, hey, I'm just reaching out to see how everything is going. But sometimes when the parents are not responding or answering you, you're put in this spot where administration is like, well, they didn't log on, so what are you going to put in for grades? So it's like this whole debate about passing and failing kids, and it's like a lot of issues, which I feel like administration wants us to, if they're not doing it, unless there's like extreme circumstances, then they're not going to get that good marking grade. But
so, not to cut you off, but if I know something that you said earlier, you were talking about the pass to fail and the fail to pass. Some kids that were in school that are passing are now failing, and vice versa. What is what's the remedy to that? Because, my goddaughter's home and it's like, are you doing the work? And she like, yeah, but it's so boring. I'm like, well, I can only imagine, that's like college, when you was in college and, get that long lecture class, you just sitting there like this, you know what I'm saying? So what do you do? Like,
for me,
Joe, what do you do? Like, what do you do?
I try to give parents benefit of the doubt. I'm not the kind of, like, for me, for kindergarten, they have access to a weekly schedule that has a list of all of the assignments that are due for the entire week. I am the kindergarten lead teacher, so I am responsible for everything that is related to kindergarten. So like, I came up with this weekly schedule, and I have all those assignments that they receive on Monday, and they have until Friday to complete them. Because a lot of parents work still. Even though the pandemic is happening, there are a lot of parents that are expressing that the times that they want us to submit assignments don't work for them. But this is when I say the communication is key. If you tell me I work at 3:30, I'm not going to be able to turn that assignment in, I will give you a day extension. I will not just say, no, you have to. I'll say, yeah, no problem. You can turn it in the next day. You can turn it in at 7 p.m. as long as it's submitted. And I guess it's really weird because a lot of the work, like I said before, is not new information. It's information that the kids are reviewing, especially with kindergarten. We can't really just roll out whole lessons because we're teaching virtually. It's hard for them to sit in a classroom and focus for a long period of time. I know it's even more difficult for them to focus at a computer screen. And then you have that other battle, like, you said that you have 3 kids, and you're thankful and grateful to have those devices that they all can log on. I have some parents that had to get the devices from the school, and they have 3 kids that go to the school. So then they have to figure out what time one kid can get on, then the next kid get on, the next kid get on. So I try not to press them. If they already told me I have 3 kids at home that use one device, I'm not going to keep writing them every day, hey, this assignment is late, this assignment is late. I'm going to let them give them the time to give me those assignments when they can, because I feel like it would be inconsiderate for me to just say, well, I don't care if you have 2 other kids. You need to submit this on time, and that's it. No, it's not. I feel like you said, it's making sure that socially, emotionally, they're okay, and they need to feel like you're supporting them in as many ways that you can. It's very hard to do that virtually because it's just through a phone call or email. But I try to be as warm as I can. But some parents, like I said, it depends on how they read my message, because I can be coming off as understanding, but some parents are still upset that their kids have to do work in the first place. So it's
How
just
can you be
pushing that
upset?
way. Listen, I have a parent that would just, I can't even communicate with her anymore. That's how bad it has gotten, which during the school year, it wasn't even that extreme. But it's like I'll continue to call her, and she'll say, oh, I understand what I have to do, but then it doesn't get done. So then I'm reaching out again. Then the next time I'm reaching out, she's being combative. So
Well,
it's
yeah,
hard.
I agree with her. Like but we have parents who opted out. They just, they wrote a letter. They don't want their child to receive any services from school. Do not call them again. So we have parents who have done that as well. Like
So what's the recourse to that? How do you opt out of school?
Yeah.
Like, how do you say I'm not going
I
to
think
school?
it depends on the school, because for me, like, and I had this debate with my boyfriend, because he was just like, I don't think that any kids should fail during this time. And I
agree with that. Can I chime in on that? I do believe due to these circumstances that we can't really just fail them, because everybody didn't even have the system together. Like, everything was learned right away. The teachers had to learn it. So they don't know everything that's going on. The principals don't know everything that's going on. It kind of pieces stuff together to try to make it look like a structured system when there's no real structure there. So I don't think it's really fair, especially if those kids were passing during in-school times, for them to fail. I don't think anybody should actually fail, only because the reason some of those kids that were failing might have had a chance to catch up. But they didn't have that chance at home. It's difficult. So I don't think you should fail them. I really don't.
I think I agree. And like I said, when you have your own views versus something that administration is pushing through, like, you are put in this spot where it's either you're going to be rebellious and then you get docked, or it's like, what do you do when administration is requiring you to say, well, if they don't get these assignments in, then you have to fail them? And it's not something that I 100% agree with, but I think it's situational, because I do feel like some parents could just be taking advantage of the fact that they're home and they're like, well, I can't do it. Whereas some parents, there are really things that are going on, but then again, we never know, because we're not there with them. We're just going based off what they say. And I think it's just a weird situation, and it's it's really not black and white at all. And I think all different schools, how they're going about it, no school could get it correct, because we have never been here before. And I think what parents have to understand is that we are only trying to do the best thing for you and your child. And if we had this great relationship the whole school year and it changes because of virtual, you should understand that this is a system that is flawed. Like you said, like, this is not something that we knew we were going to have. We didn't know. It just abrupt, and we had to go with it. But this is why I go back to the communication is key. We need to continue communication. Like, I think in some extreme circumstances, if your family is directly impacted by it, then I can understand why you're not reaching out and you're not thinking about school. But if you are saying you still work and you want to communicate and we work out something, that is when I say the communication has to be there, so that I can meet you where you are. But if you're not responding to anytime I reach out, how can I make this easier for you? I can't.
But you know what? The situation with the COVID and everything like that outweighs the fact that they need to get these A's and B's and pass these grades. It outweighs it. So it's almost like you got to put it on pause. But you can't fail them. You can't fail them because it's not giving them a chance to get themselves together. This is a situation that nobody planned for. People are dying. It's not just a basic thing. So they have to really realize that they cannot fail the students. And I know it puts you at a standstill, because it is coming from your higher ups, and they're higher ups as well. So those administrators have to look up to somebody, because they're telling them the same thing. Get your teachers to do their job, because we got to make it look like a business. Because yes, school is a business. It's the business of teaching children, but it is a business. So you won't get paid if you don't work. So this is the way to let them know, or let you know that you can't stay home and get paid.
Yeah.
So you got to do something.
We're at a situation now that where kids are home and they've been home for how many months? What's going on? 4 months now? Something like that.
Yeah, since what, March, right?
Yeah.
March. Three months.
They've been home so long that they're waking up at 12, they're just chilling. And then they got to look at the screen like, do I really want to do this? They got comfortable of being home and not working. So some of them who are doing well, they may not want to do that because they're just like, hey, I'm home. Do I really got to look at the screen? But I also had something to say. I grew up in an era where if you don't turn in your homework that day, you fail. You failed that class. I've noticed that this era is you can make it up era.
Yeah.
I don't know if that teaches discipline or not. I mean, what's your opinion on it? I just feel that if you don't do your work on time,
right,
then you should get penalized for it.
I think that it depends on the grade level, because I'll tell you why. I'm a firm believer that K-3, most of it is not the grade of the scholar, it's the grade of the parent. Because with kindergarten, like I said, with pre-K, my daughter, she has to log on. If I don't push that initiative and say, get up and let's go, it won't happen. So I think it depends on the grade about makeup and stuff like that. And I'm a firm believer that if the parents are really like the vehicle for a child's education, if the parent does not put forth the initiative, and then especially with them not being in class where the teacher, would do that, they have to get that from the parent now. The role is shifted. Instead of me being the sole resource for all of the knowledge and stuff like that, and to say, you need to make sure you do this work, it's coming from the parent. And if the parent is not consistent and committed to doing that, it won't happen. And this is what you're starting to see, that a lot of the parents don't want, it's too much of a responsibility for them. And they feel like, I didn't have a kid to teach them. Because some parents think that the teacher is the only person that teaches the kids, which I think that the parent is the first teacher. And I don't know if it's just because my mother is an educator, and I think the parent and the teacher is just that bridge. That is not the main resource. And I just feel like I could never feel comfortable with just relying solely on a teacher. I'm not there with them every day. I don't know how well or effective they're teaching my daughter. And I can't just be like, well, she's going to school every day, so she should know this. No, I'm going to make sure I check myself and I say, this is what I'm going to teach her. And if the teacher is teaching it, fine, because it's just a reinforcement. But I won't just assume that all of these things are going to be taught. And that's why I think making up and failing really depends on, I think, how involved the parent is, especially in those lower grade levels.
I definitely agree with you. Like you said, between kindergarten and maybe second and third grade, the parent is kind of responsible for making sure that the student homework or, work is getting done. But after a certain point, students should be responsible. As a parent, like my son, 4th grade, if he gets a 0, and I let him know, like, you earned that 0. Like, It's not my responsibility. And he doesn't like that. And as a teacher, like you said, your mom was an educator. You're an educator. Like, I teach my kids responsibility. So if you're gonna not do your homework because you want to play your game or whatever, you're gonna get whatever consequences. There's no doing homework in the car. There's no doing this, and so it's a fine line. Like at some point, the parents have to take responsibility and teach their student or teach their child how to be responsible. But yes, it's a lot of other things that come into play because some kids are responsible for things that. For taking care of siblings, for getting siblings dressed in the morning time. So as an educator, you really do. Once you learn your students, then you start to, you say, okay, I know that you got siblings, you got to get them dressed. You start to work around and figure things out for them. But some, like the majority of the students can, you know, are responsible for themselves. And at that point, when they realize that they have to take in, you know, they have to turn in their classwork and they don't, then they get that 0. When you know that they are capable of doing it, when you know that they are capable of accepting that responsibility.
So
So
does your school, I'm sorry,
uh-huh.
does your school, like if they don't turn in assignments, do they also fail the scholars as well?
No, so I am my school is an all special ed school, so we only have special ed students and within our building. So it's a lot more. So one of the points that I wanted to bring up is like we really don't fail students because it gets kind of legal, especially with the virtual with the IEPs and things like that. So you can go to court right now if you're not providing accommodations and modifications for students right now. So it's going to be a lot of lawsuits that's going to come from this pandemic. Like students are missing speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. So this pandemic is a lot bigger than teachers. It's going to be a lot of lawsuits because special ed students are not getting what they are supposed to get according to their IEP right now.
But not even just that. I think even the students that don't have IEPs, I see that, like my dad said, he said that this is a business. They have you working. They have us doing all this stuff because, like you said, you cannot sit home and still get paid. They're not going to have that. State is not going to allow that happen. But what I think is going to end up happening by the time we go back is that a lot of these grades are going to be expunged, and they're not going to. It's not. We're just doing all of this work, and then guess what? Some relationships that I had with parents are now strained just for the grades to be erased. So it's like it puts you in this spot. It was like I should have just been passing them anyway, because if y'all gonna just waive it, now I don't look. The administration doesn't look like the bad guy. I do. I get blamed for failing the students when I was just doing what I was told. So I think it puts you in a weird spot. And for the most part, like I said, most of my relationship with my parents are very positive. They thank me and say I'm very understanding in this process. I try to make it as easy for them as possible. But I think even still, like with kindergarten, a lot of the stuff that my school requires them to do virtually is a lot. And it could be, especially with parents that don't speak English and having to teach them, it's very difficult to even get them to understand. Even when we log on to Google Meets, like if I'm talking to them and the kid doesn't know how to unmute themselves, and the parent doesn't know what I'm saying. So it's like, that's why I said there's no way that I can teach new content. It has to be stuff that that is just refreshing their memory, because it's all these different things that are happening. Parents that don't speak English, like you said, there's scholars that have IEPs, and I think it's just a very, very difficult thing. And parents don't have to understand. As teachers, we're stressed out too. We have families of our own that we have to deal with too.
It really is a business. Like I tell the teachers all the time, like you have to document everything that you do. I would say tell the teacher, prepare the lesson, like you're going to teach it. If a student doesn't answer the phone, they don't join the WebEx,
write it down.
You just wrote that. But you have to prepare, like you have to prove that you were actually working. This is a business. And like you said, like no one is going to pay you to sit home. And it was to the point like you don't want to leave. I didn't want to leave from in front of my computer until it was 2:50. Like that's how, like they kind of not brainwash us, but you feel like you cannot move. Like
because we have to submit something every day, a form, and that form counts as your attendance. If you don't fill that out, you're marked absent for the day, and then it goes into the line if you're losing days and all that stuff like that. So, and it's like a constant routine, and I'm just like, okay, what time is it? Let me make sure I don't miss this. So it's really stressful for us, and especially if you have your own kids.
I don't know no teacher that would rather do virtual learning. Every teacher I know wants to go back into the classroom.
Right, because like you beg for a break. I didn't want all this though. I wanted a break.
Let me chime in on that. Let me chime in on that, because it is so funny how teachers were at the brink of insanity when they were inside of the classrooms. By March or before that, I saw many teachers going crazy, taking a lot of days out, being stressed out. It's just so bad. And I felt bad. And there's a lot of students, it was a lot of friction in different, I mean, it wasn't just my school. I know that was across the board. Teachers wait for their vacations to come. Wait for the spring break, the winter break, the summer break, every break. And it's like, but then when something like this happens, now they want to go back. Let me ask y'all this. How do you think it's going to be, or what do you think it's going to be like when you go back to the school?
I think initially, it's really crazy because usually my school goes back the last week of August, but our calendar for the next school year says we're starting September 1st, which this is about to be my 4th year teaching. We've never started that late. And I don't know if it's because of the pandemic or if they just finally just gave us that week off. But I see it, especially with all the protests that's going on. Nobody's really practicing social distance. People are wearing masks, but they're still protesting and they're in very close proximity. I am fearful that it's going to be another wave of the COVID-19 strand because of all the protests, which I'm not against it, but I can see it being detrimental to everyone and impacting the educational system and making it that this is extended to the next school year. I hope and pray that it's not, but I do think if we go back, that classroom sizes may be cut. There might be some kind of A day, B day kind of schedule, or like a hybrid kind of thing where half of it is in person and the next is online, which I don't think it's going to be a while for things to be normal. I don't see it being normal for a long time. Even thinking about not having that much access to cleaning products and how that's going to impact, like with kindergarten, like they don't know germs. So if we don't have disinfectant products, how is that going to look going back to school? And it's something that I'm very wary of and I'm worried about because I like for some people that are teaching first grade, second grade, they at least have some idea of who their kids are going to be. Somebody that was at the school already the previous year. But for me, we don't have pre-K. So these students that are coming from other schools, I'm never going to meet them. And I really don't want it to be that I have to meet them virtually because I feel like, what would that look like to meet your new teacher for the first time virtually? And I just feel like it's not going to be as personal if that's the way that I have to go about it. So I'm like really nervous about how this school year is going to be, especially because with my new position that I just got, I'm most likely not going to be in the classroom as much. I'm going to be kind of like acting as like a coach and assisting all the other teachers, but I just want to make sure that I'm like showing my face and that people know me, but it's really hard to do that if it's going to be virtually. So that's my worry about it.
One thing
What about
you guys
you,
said before that I definitely wanted to mention was discipline. I mean, it's like two people on this Zoom right now that are super old, but we're not going to talk about who those two people are. You know,
the one that looks old, but he's younger.
With 3 people on here that's kind of mid-range. 2 people that's real old. Know that, like honestly though, but when I was in school, I mean, I agree with what Nafisa said about, I mean, it starts at home. If I didn't do my homework, I mean, what happened to getting a butt whooping for not doing your homework?
It's different. Everybody's soft now.
I need this school era to go back to the old school, and I mean, and I need parents to start. Part of my lack of language was I need parents to start whooping some ass. You know what I'm saying? To get this thing under control, because you have these students that are now rebellious to actually do the work in the classroom, and you're rebellious to do it out of the classroom. Something has to give. And as both of you young ladies were saying that y'all having difficulty with the, why is that a teacher is having difficulty with a parent? Why are we arguing? We just want him to do the homework, her do the work. Do the work, hand it in, that's it. If it ain't right, we gonna go over it, we're gonna do this. But fam, us arguing is not the purpose. And that's what makes me upset about when you have a lot of these, sometimes even these young mothers or even just parents in general, that you're not taking a full stand of your children's education. Like these teachers gotta
But
go.
I mean, I gotta interrupt you. I'm sorry, but you have parents who haven't spent this much time with their child. So now you're asking a parent who was not used to having their child because they were at school for 7 hours a day to be there throughout the week. 7 days a week, your child is with you. And I mean, 7 days a week, your child is with you. So now, like, parents are like, not to make excuses for parents, I'm just like a little empathetic towards them. Like, some parents are frustrated. They look forward to their kids going to school. Like, that was their break, that was their me time. Even if the parent didn't work, that child was getting up and going to school. The parent was making sure that. And so you have some parents like that doesn't know how to handle actually being a full-time parent now because they never had to do that. And so that's why, like, some parents are frustrated though. Like, they don't know how to handle having their kids all this amount of time.
But on the other end though, there are some parents who kids wasn't going to school when we were in school. So I knew, like, the parent that I've been having issues with, like, her scholar would be in school, or he would be the one that would miss assignments, or sometimes won't do his homework. His book bag is not here. Like, it's that kind of scholar that I would have issues with. So I anticipated this happen. I'm not shocked that this happened. Like, I know when we knew that Friday before they announced it on Monday that we were not going to come back, I purposely put packets in his folder so I could make sure that she got it, just so she wouldn't say, well, I can't do this virtually. So it's just like you said, your parents, your scholars, and you try to prepare for that. So I'm not shocked by this, but like you said, I document everything. I have a log. I write down every time I called you, every time you answered, every time you didn't answer, because guess what? It came back later, weeks later, where I had to present this to admin. But now I have it all documented. Listen, I've been reaching out to her since this day at this time. This is what she said, just so I'm covering myself to show that, listen, I've been holding up my end. And like you said, I'm a firm believer of documenting everything, because without documentation, it's just your word against someone else.
Afisa, you wanted to say the kid's name at first a little bit.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm not doing that.
We got a disclaimer.
You want to let that out the bag. She called up
recording.
Wait a minute.
We'll play this video. A thing. But look, that's all I want to say. It's really no blueprint on how to teach a classroom with children. Everybody has their own emotions, all right? So I guess it's not really easy to just teach in one way. And I do think that the school systems don't take that in consideration. Everybody has their own mindset.
Well, being that I teach autistic students, it's going to be extremely difficult for them when they come back, because, I mean, I hate to say it, they don't know any better. Okay, they're going to be hugging their friends. They're going to be up close and things like that. And they don't know the COVID-19 means nothing to them. You know? Yep. And as far as you were saying about the parents stressing, now these parents really stress. Okay, the fact that they have their autistic child home 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they are pulling I know they're pulling their hair out, because they can't. Like I said, they were happy that their child was gone all day. Now that they have them, they're just like, I know this. I can't do this. I can't do this.
So that's what y'all parents do. Y'all kids, y'all happy that y'all kids get away.
But think about how many kids, how many parents are going to be so upset that there's no summer school.
Not yet.
Like, a lot of parents, summer school is a getaway too, and most of it is going to be virtually. And I still don't even know if I'm going to be working summer yet, because I feel like a lot of parents felt like this virtual learning experience was a lot, and they're not going to want to extend that to summer school. And like with kindergarten, it's not mandatory that they go; it's only recommended. So parents don't have to; they can opt out. And like I said, my concern, and I know that this is inevitable, and there's nothing I can do about it. my concern is that my babies are going to go to first grade and they're going to be lost. But I think that that's going to happen across many different grade levels and I think that all teachers, before getting into the curriculum or whatever grade you teach, need to take a pause and just say, you know what, let me just make sure that you know the basics. Like for me, when the kids come from pre-K, we're gonna make sure they know how to hold a pencil. We're gonna make sure they know how to write their name, because I'm gonna come in with the assumption that they missed those things. And I think that every educator going to the next school year needs to make sure that they put a pause on the curriculum of that current grade and make sure that they build those foundational skills, because there's no way to keep going past and just ignore the fact that they were out of school for 5 months. So
exactly. You can't worry about meeting benchmarks right now in September. All of those benchmark assessments and pacers and all those guys are going out the window. Even the Department of Testing has already said, like, these test scores for the next couple of years will not even count. So, like, as an educator, like, you cannot just go in and saying, like, you're going to just teach head on. Like, first you just got to make sure that your students are good. You got to slowly introduce them back into learning. It's going to be a lot. Like, some teachers are really, like, bulls when it comes to teaching, but they have to learn, they're going to have to learn how to ease back on it, and, you know, just make sure that the students are okay, and just seeing where the students are and encouraging the students to make sure they're trying their best. So I think staff is going to lead a lot of professional development in the beginning of the school year as well.
Yeah, because they're coming from a laid back situation now. You know, the kids are just like, they're coming to school like, I don't even want to be here. So you have to adjust to them. You definitely have to adjust to them. Okay, let's slowly inch our way back in and get you guys ready. If you think that you're just gonna come in there and be like, all right, you got a test next week, they're gonna be like, what are you talking about? What you talking about?
Yeah. And you said something about testing. Like, you can't even take tests at home, so that there's certain standardized testing for their finals and everything. Do they try to give them a certain final test that's coming up for these students?
So for my school, the way that they're doing it is that so next week Friday is going to be like the last like virtual day for kindergarten, because the 15th they're going to have their virtual graduation ceremony. So what I decided, because like I said, I'm in control of the kindergarten team, I said, we're not going to come up with any kind of test. It's literally going to be like a normal day, like they normally do an assignment, and that assignment will just be logged into PowerSchool as the final. Because a lot of parents, I always do check-ins weekly to see how they're doing, and a lot of them are saying the same thing. They're overwhelmed, and it's a lot. And I always try to say, you know, let me know what I can do to make this easy for you. And just even saying that and checking in, it matters, because they're going to remember that their child's teacher actually cared about them and not just caring about the assignment. And I think it's very important not to just be all about the assignments, and do it in a way that you're like, hey, like I said earlier, this assignment wasn't completed. Did you need more clarity on it? Did you need help? Let me know how I can make this easier for you. But versus the approach of saying your child's going to fail if you don't do this assignment. I think it's very important to like frame your language in a way that is comforting to the parents. Otherwise, there is going to be a lot of problems between you and the parents, and to do that virtually is just a lot.
It's crazy.
I really enjoyed this conversation, because you have an opportunity to really see 3 different sides of educators, and where you guys stand, what you guys' standpoints are as far as how you're educating and the adversities you have. So again, I tip my hat off to you for doing what you do, because, you know, I'm glad I don't have kids, because I would have probably hung my son or daughter out the window, you know, if they didn't do their homework. And I probably still might when I have kids, you know. So, and I just want to say this, don't none of y'all call me up, don't say nothing about diapers. I just, you know, every now and again, there's nothing wrong with hanging your child out the window when they don't do their homework. Just hang them out, just dangle them.
Go get your switch.
Not what we say. We can beat the kids, but we're not gonna hang them out the window. And that's for all the
No, hang them out the window. If you get a bad grade, I'm hanging you out the window for like at least 2 minutes. And let it be slow. Let it be slow. Wait till it gets winter.
Move closer to the camera so we can see all them gray hairs in your head.
I just wanted to add one additional thing. I think one thing that I feel like has been like really hard for me, the pandemic anyway was just a lot to cope with. But once all this happened with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all these other things that's happening with police brutality, my concern was that some schools are not addressing it, and I think that bothers me, especially being African American, and to know that this is happening to people that look like me, this happened to people that look like the people that I love, and for no one to even recognize or acknowledge something like that, I think that is a lot. And it's really hard to find a way to reach out to parents in a way that's, because this is political, and you're not really supposed to discuss these kind of things with parents. So trying to find a way to check on them in a way that is not in a political way, because I feel like it's a fine line, and I think when you approach it, it's like you have to figure out ways to reach out and make sure that parents are okay with everything that's going on. So I think for me, it's just trying to figure out how to make sure that I'm being as supportive for the parents and the scholars with everything that's going on without going across that fine line of political, because like it could get into a really bad situation if you're talking about this and someone is not on the same, doesn't have the same mindset as you, and they don't view what's going on as something that is a problem. And as a parent, so I feel like it's really difficult. And for me, some days, like with all this going on, it's hard for me to get up and continue to work when this is happening. And I had to take some mental health days and just be like, you know what, let me just sleep, let me listen to my gospel, let me do what I gotta do to just get myself together, because if I'm not whole, my daughter is not whole, my scholars are not whole. So it's just making sure that trying to find ways to cope and also be supportive while also making sure you take care of yourself. And I think that's something that I think that we should leave with, making sure that you spend and focus on making sure that you are 100% whole always, because without that, there's no way that anything that you have in your mind to happen will flourish. It won't. And I think that's important. And finding something that you love to do, even if it's just for 5 to 10 minutes, just to make sure that you are 100% ready, especially with all that's going on.
Right. Well, listen, we're definitely, I mean, it's so much more that we want to talk about. And what I would like to do is bring you guys back on for a part 2 to really dig into some more and get a little deeper into how you guys are handling, especially the situation with the George Floyd and the Arbery situation. I mean, so much is going on. So we really want to get more feedback. So hopefully you ladies would love to, to get back on with us. Here at Controller Cool, we try our best to keep our community and keep our fans, those that watch us, keep them informed to everything. And of course, this is I have to say, this is a Black-owned company that we're running here. So, we're doing the best. Exactly. There we go. This is a Black-owned business, saying the 3 Kings here have pushed ourselves to the limit. So we definitely want to bring you guys back, man, and just, vibe with you. We had a great time. We'd like to thank Miss Cherie Pritchett and also Miss Nafisa Anque for just giving us such feedback, as well as Joe. Joe don't really count though, but we're gonna just consider.
He's making a difference.
For the fans, let me just break this down. So for the fans, Miss Nafisa is actually Slim's daughter. Now, I didn't know this, and Slim didn't tell us this, Joe. but he is a grandpa. Your daughter let it out your bag.
Listen, and then also I have a twin
Well,
sister. I have a twin sister, and she's also a teacher too.
Oh my, okay.
So maybe next
listen,
time she could join it too.
listen, I'm gonna contact you guys and we're gonna bring you back. We're gonna do a part 2 to this. I really want to do a part 2 to this. So we're gonna come back and we're gonna get some more information and just figure out, maybe even give some tips to some other teachers who want to look at this and figure out some ways that you guys can kind of give somebody a little help. But again, we thank you so much for joining in with us. You know,
No problem.
You know, this
Thank
is
you.
a part of our show. And of course, everybody who's watching, make sure that you log on to our Instagram, Control the Cool TV. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and share. And make sure y'all definitely hit our Instagram. Of course, we're growing up with those Instagram polls. I think, Slim, where we at? About over 1,000?
About 11, almost 1,200. Almost 1,200.
Yeah, so we at 1,200. We growing. So listen, make sure y'all do this on all the social media platforms, and as
YouTube
always,
as well.
yes, the YouTube as well. And of
Definitely.
course, Slim, tell them exactly what we do here.
We make the rules, so we control the cool.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
Bye,
Bless,
guys.
bless, bless.